The hotel charge appeared on my phone at 3:47 a.m. like a digital slap across the face. $912 at the Meridian Grand, plus another $300 at Chez Laurent. 2 people, 1 room, one very expensive evening that I definitely hadn't enjoyed. My name is Julian Everett, and I'm what you'd call a numbers guy. Investment banking teaches you to spot patterns, anomalies, things that don't add up. When your wife of 8 years claims she's working late, but your joint credit card is painting a very different picture, well, that's what we call a red flag in my business. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Monique lay beside me, her blonde hair spread across the silk pillowcase like spilled champagne. Beautiful, successful, and apparently very creative with her expense reports. She'd come home at midnight with that particular glow that expensive wine and guilty secrets tend to produce, claiming she'd been in emergency meetings with Dom about the Henderson account. Dominic, her boss at Darrow and Associates PR. Married man, 2 kids, drives a Porsche, and thinks his charm can buy him anything, including, apparently, my wife. I slipped out of bed and padded to my home office, the hardwood cold against my bare feet. The smart home's ambient lighting kicked in automatically, casting everything in a cool blue glow. My sanctuary looked exactly as I'd left it. Financial journals stacked precisely, my grandfather's leather chair positioned just so, the hidden safe behind the fake Monet containing documents that would soon become very important. The phone rang twice before a nervous voice answered. Meridian Grand, night desk. This is Julian Everett. I'm calling about a charge on my card from yesterday evening, room 1247. A pause, papers shuffling. Yes, sir. The reservation was made by Mrs. Everett. She checked in with, let me see, Mr. Caro. They ordered champagne service and requested late checkout. I see. And the dinner charge at Chez Laurent? That would be from our concierge service, sir. They made a reservation for 2 at 8 p.m. Very romantic table, I'm told. Overlooking the harbor. Romantic. How thoughtful of them. Thank you. That's all I needed to know. I hung up and stared at my computer screen. In the blue glow, I probably looked like a ghost. Maybe I was one. The Julian who'd gone to bed last night believing his wife was working late had certainly passed away somewhere between 3:47 a.m. and now. But ghosts, I've learned, can be very useful things. They see everything, feel nothing, and have absolutely nothing left to lose. I opened my laptop and began typing an email. The recipient, Vanessa.carowoocarolegal.com. Vanessa Caro, Dom's wife, senior partner at one of the city's most ruthless law firms, a woman who'd built her reputation on destroying people who crossed her. The subject line read, regarding yesterday's business meeting. The message was simple. Mrs. Caro, I believe our spouses had a very productive meeting yesterday at the Meridian Grand, room 1247. I've attached the receipts for their business dinner and overnight accommodations. I thought you might want to review these expenses for your records. Best regards, Julian Everett. I attached the credit card statements and hit send. Then I sat back in my grandfather's chair and smiled for the first time in months. The game, as they say, was afoot. Morning came with the smell of expensive coffee and the sound of Monique's heels clicking across our marble kitchen floor. She'd chosen her outfit carefully. The black Armani suit that made her look powerful, the red lipstick that said she was ready to conquer the world, or at least the PR world of our little coastal city. You're up early, she said, not looking at me as she poured coffee into her travel mug. The same mug I'd bought her for Christmas 2 years ago, engraved with "World's Best Wife." The irony wasn't lost on me. Couldn't sleep, I replied, buttering my toast with deliberate precision. Weird dreams about hotel bills and romantic dinners. Her hand paused for just a fraction of a second before continuing to add cream to her coffee. A tell. In poker, we call it a micro-expression. In marriage, we call it confirmation. That's strange, she said, her voice perfectly modulated. Maybe you should cut back on the late-night financial reports. Maybe I should. I took a bite of toast and watched her reflection in the stainless steel refrigerator. She was checking her phone, probably looking for messages from Dom. How did your emergency meeting go yesterday? Exhausting. You know how Dom gets when a major client is on the line. We were at the office until nearly 11 going over presentation materials. The office. Right. The office that was apparently located at the Meridian Grand and served champagne with its conference rooms. The Henderson account must be worth a fortune to keep you both working so late. It is. She turned to face me, and for a moment I saw something flicker in her green eyes. Guilt, fear, or maybe just annoyance that I was asking questions. Dom thinks we can close the deal by Friday if we play our cards right. Dom thinks. Dom says. Dom wants. For 8 years, I'd listened to her talk about her boss like he was some kind of business genius, instead of a married man who clearly had designs on my wife. And apparently, those designs had moved from theoretical to very, very practical. My phone buzzed. A text message from an unknown number. We need to talk. VC. Vanessa Caro. That was fast. I have to run, Monique said, grabbing her purse and keys. Big presentation today. Don't wait up tonight if I'm late again. Another emergency meeting? She kissed my cheek, her lips cool and distant. You know how it is in PR. Crisis management never sleeps. After she left, I sat in our pristine kitchen and laughed until my sides ached. Crisis management. She had no idea how accurate that statement was about to become. My phone rang. The caller ID showed V. Caro. Mr. Everett. Vanessa's voice was crisp, professional, and absolutely furious. I believe we have something to discuss. I believe we do. The copper parrot. 1 hour. Come alone. The line went silent. I finished my coffee, straightened my tie, and prepared to meet the other betrayed spouse. In my experience, there's nothing more dangerous than a brilliant lawyer who's been made to look like a fool. And Vanessa Caro was about to become my new best friend. The copper parrot sat on Harbor Street like a relic from better times, all dark wood and brass fixtures that had witnessed 50 years of business deals, broken hearts, and quiet conspiracies. At 11 a.m., it was nearly empty except for the bartender polishing glasses and a woman in the corner booth who looked like she could dismantle a person's entire existence before lunch. Vanessa Caro was smaller than I'd expected, maybe 5'4" in heels, but she radiated the kind of controlled fury that makes smart people very nervous. Her silver hair was pulled back in a perfect chignon. Her navy suit was probably worth more than most people's cars, and her blue eyes held the temperature of Arctic ice. Mr. Everett. She didn't stand as I approached, just gestured to the seat across from her. A manila folder sat on the table between us like a loaded weapon. Mrs. Caro, thank you for meeting me. Don't thank me yet. She opened the folder and spread several photographs across the table. These were taken yesterday afternoon at the Meridian Grand. My private investigator has been following my husband for 3 weeks. The photos were devastatingly clear. Dom and Monique entering the hotel lobby, Dom's hand on the small of her back, the two of them at Chez Laurent, leaning across the table like teenagers in love. Dom kissing Monique in the hotel elevator, her arms wrapped around his neck. I see your wife is quite flexible, Vanessa said dryly, both professionally and personally. I studied the images with the same detachment I used for financial reports. Numbers don't lie, and neither did these photographs. How long have you known? I suspected for months. Dom's been working late more often, buying new clothes, humming in the shower, the classic signs. She gathered the photos and slid them back into the folder. But I needed proof before I moved. In my line of work, assumptions can be expensive. And now you have proof. Thanks to your credit card statement, yes. She leaned back in the booth, her fingers drumming against the table. The question is, what do we do about it? I signaled the bartender for coffee. That depends on what you want to accomplish. I want to destroy them both. Her voice was calm, conversational, like she was discussing the weather. Professionally, personally, financially. I want them to understand that actions have consequences, and some consequences last forever. That's a tall order. Mr. Everett, I've spent 20 years building my legal practice by ruining people who underestimated me. My own husband apparently thinks I'm some kind of decorative housewife who'll quietly accept his midlife crisis. She smiled, and it was absolutely terrifying. He's about to learn otherwise. The bartender brought my coffee, glanced at the tension radiating from our booth, and quickly retreated to the far end of the bar. What do you know about your wife's work situation? Vanessa asked. She's Dom's senior account manager. Makes good money, has her own clients, but Dom controls the major accounts and most of the firm's operations. And Dom controls her career advancement? Essentially, yes. Vanessa nodded. Classic power dynamic. He has leverage over her professionally. She's flattered by the attention from someone important. Tale as old as time. You sound like you've seen this before? I've litigated dozens of similar cases. Workplace affairs, abuse of power, harassment. The patterns are always the same. She leaned forward, but this time, it's personal. I sipped my coffee and studied this elegant, dangerous woman. What are you proposing? A coordinated campaign. You handle the personal side, divorce, asset protection, public humiliation. I'll handle the professional destruction. Between us, we can make sure they both lose everything that matters to them. That's quite a commitment. Mr. Everett, they used our money to fund their little romance. They lied to our faces while planning their future together. They made us look like fools. Her voice dropped to a whisper. I don't forgive that kind of disrespect. I thought about Monique's kiss on my cheek that morning, cool and dismissive, about 8 years of marriage that apparently meant less to her than expensive hotel rooms and champagne with her married boss. What did you have in mind? Vanessa smiled again, and I finally understood why opposing lawyers feared her. Let me tell you about the beauty of a well-orchestrated professional assassination. By Thursday afternoon, I had filed for divorce, frozen our joint accounts, and hired the most aggressive attorney I could find. Margaret Stone was a bulldog in Chanel suits who specialized in high-asset divorces and had a reputation for leaving opposing parties financially devastated. Your wife won't see this coming, Margaret had assured me during our consultation. Most cheating spouses assume their partners will be too hurt or embarrassed to fight back aggressively. They're usually wrong. She was right. Monique's credit cards were declined at her usual lunch spot. Her access to our investment accounts was blocked, and she couldn't even pay for parking without calling me, which she did, repeatedly, her voice growing more frantic with each message. Julian, there's some kind of mistake with the bank. My cards aren't working. Call me back immediately. Julian, this isn't funny anymore. I can't access any of our accounts. What's going on? Julian, Margaret Stone's office called me. They said you filed for divorce. This is insane. We need to talk. I didn't call her back. Instead, I sat in my office at Hartwell & Associates, reviewing quarterly reports and listening to my phone buzz with increasing desperation. Let her sweat. Let her wonder. Let her realize that the comfortable life she'd been taking for granted while screwing her boss was about to disappear. My assistant knocked and entered. Mr. Everett? There's a Monique Everett here to see you. She says she's your wife. Send her in. Monique burst through the door like a hurricane in heels, her perfect composure finally cracked. Her hair was disheveled, her makeup smudged, and her hands were shaking. What the hell is wrong with you? She demanded, slamming the door behind her. Divorce papers? Frozen accounts? Have you lost your mind? I leaned back in my chair and studied her like she was a particularly interesting stock projection. I don't think so. My mind seems quite clear, actually. This is about yesterday, isn't it? About me working late? She moved closer to my desk, her voice dropping to that sultry tone she used when she wanted something. Julian, honey, I know I've been distracted lately, but the Henderson account is huge for the firm. Dom and I have been under incredible pressure. Dom and you. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a folder. Yes, let's talk about you and Dom. I spread the hotel receipts across my desk like a poker hand. Her face went white. I can explain. Please do. I'm fascinated to hear how a business meeting requires champagne service and late checkout at the Meridian Grand. She sank into the chair across from my desk, her bravado evaporating. Julian, it's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You're sleeping with your married boss, using our money to fund your affair, and lying to my face about it. I leaned forward. The only question is how long it's been going on. Tears started flowing, but they looked calculated, practiced. It just happened. We were working late, we had too much wine, one thing led to another. It doesn't mean anything. The hotel receipts suggest otherwise. This wasn't a one-time mistake, Monique. This was a planned romantic evening. Okay, fine. Yes, Dom and I have feelings for each other, but it's complicated. He's married, I'm married. We're trying to figure out what to do. How thoughtful of you to figure it out on my credit card. She wiped her eyes, smearing her mascara further. I never meant for you to find out this way. I was going to tell you. When? After you and Dom ran away together? After you cleaned out our accounts? That's not... She stopped, her mouth hanging open. How did you know about that? Bingo. I kept my expression neutral, but inside I was celebrating. She'd just confirmed what Vanessa had suspected. This wasn't just an affair. It was a planned exit strategy. Know about what, Monique? Nothing. I didn't mean anything. But her face told a different story. Panic, guilt, and the dawning realization that she'd said too much. I stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the harbor where Dom and Monique had shared their romantic dinner. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to pack your things and move out of our house. You're going to cooperate with the divorce proceedings. And you're going to hope that I don't decide to get creative with the evidence I've collected. Evidence? I turned back to her, smiling. Did you really think I'd just roll over and accept this? I'm an investment banker, Monique. I investigate everything before I make a move. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it and went even paler. Dom? I asked. She nodded. You might want to take that. I have a feeling he's having an interesting day, too. As she fumbled with her phone, I thought about Vanessa Caro and the plan we'd discussed. Phase 1 was complete. Shock and confusion. Phase 2 was about to begin. Professional destruction. And I was very much looking forward to Phase 3. Total annihilation. Friday morning brought chaos to Darrow and Associates like a tornado hitting a house of cards. I knew this because my friend Marcus Bell, who handled IT security for half the businesses in town, had been monitoring their systems since Wednesday. It's beautiful, Marcus told me over coffee at the Copper Parrot. Vanessa's PI delivered a file to their biggest client yesterday afternoon. Photos, emails, evidence that Dom's been padding expenses and using company resources for personal entertainment. The client pulled their account this morning. Marcus was the kind of guy who could hack the Pentagon but looked like an accountant. Thin, pale, with wire-rimmed glasses, and a sick sense of humor that made him perfect for this kind of operation. We'd been friends since college, and he owed me several favors from when I'd helped him through his own messy divorce 3 years ago. What about the other clients? I asked. Vanessa's been busy. Turns out she knows a lot of people in this town, and they all trust her judgment. When she suggests that maybe they should reconsider their PR representation, they listen. And Dom doesn't suspect his wife is behind it? Dom thinks it's just bad luck and market forces. He's been running around the office all morning, trying to do damage control. Marcus grinned. Monique's been helping him, which is making everything worse. Apparently, she's not very good under pressure. I thought about my wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, and her tendency to crack when things didn't go according to plan. She was great at managing other people's crises, but terrible at handling her own. Speaking of Monique, how's she adjusting to her new financial situation? She moved into that extended stay hotel on Elm Street, the cheap one. I drove by yesterday and saw her car in the parking lot. Marcus stirred his coffee thoughtfully. You know, I almost feel sorry for her. Don't. She made her choices. True. But Dom's the one with the real power here. He could leave his wife, marry Monique, and set her up comfortably. She's the one taking all the risk. That was Marcus, always thinking 3 moves ahead. It's what made him good at his job and invaluable as a friend. Dom's not leaving Vanessa, I said. He's too smart for that. Vanessa controls half his assets through their prenup, and she's got connections he needs for his business. Monique's just a midlife crisis with good legs. So what happens when she realizes that? That's when things get really interesting. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. Phase 2 complete. Ready for Phase 3? I showed Marcus the message. He whistled low. Remind me never to cheat on my wife, he said. You're not married anymore. Exactly. I learned my lesson. We finished our coffee and walked out into the bright morning sunshine. Harbor Street was busy with the usual Friday morning crowd. Business people grabbing coffee, tourists taking pictures of the historic buildings, normal people living normal lives without the complications of cheating spouses and elaborate revenge schemes. You sure you want to go through with this? Marcus asked as we reached our cars. You could just take the divorce settlement and walk away. Start fresh somewhere else. I looked back at the Copper Parrot, where Vanessa and I had planned the destruction of our respective spouses, where we'd bonded over betrayal and decided that some actions require consequences. They humiliated us, Marcus. They used our money, lied to our faces, and planned to disappear together like we didn't matter. Like 8 years of marriage was just something Monique could throw away for a few romantic dinners and hotel rooms. So, this is about revenge? This is about justice. There's a difference. Marcus nodded slowly. Okay. What do you need me to do? Keep monitoring their communications. I want to know every move they make, every plan they discuss, every desperate scheme they come up with. And then? Then we end this. As I drove back to my office, I thought about Monique in her cheap hotel room, probably calling Dom and asking when they could be together openly, asking when he was going to leave his wife and make everything official. She was going to be waiting a very long time for that conversation. Saturday night at the Copper Parrot was usually quiet, but tonight it felt electric with tension. I'd chosen the location carefully, public enough to prevent violence, familiar enough to feel comfortable, and crowded enough to ensure witnesses for what was about to happen. Monique arrived first, looking haggard and desperate. She'd lost weight in the past week, and her usual polished appearance had given way to something harder, more frantic. She slid into the booth across from me, her hands shaking as she ordered a double vodka. Thank you for agreeing to meet, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I know you hate me right now, but we need to talk. I don't hate you, I replied, and realized it was true. Hate required passion, and I felt nothing but cold calculation when I looked at her now. I just don't know who you are anymore. I'm still me, Julian. I'm still the woman you married. The woman I married wouldn't have cheated on me with her boss. The woman I married wouldn't have used our money to fund an affair. The woman I married wouldn't have lied to my face for months while planning to leave me for another man. She flinched at each accusation, but didn't deny any of them. I made mistakes, terrible mistakes. But Dom and I, we're in love. Are you? Because from where I sit, it looks like you're in love with the idea of him. The power, the money, the excitement of being with someone important. That's not true. Isn't it? Tell me, Monique, when is Dom leaving his wife? She hesitated, and I saw the truth in her eyes. He'd been making excuses, pushing back the timeline, finding reasons to delay. It's complicated, she said finally. It's not complicated at all. He's never leaving Vanessa, and you know it. You're just the other woman, and you always will be. Her face crumpled, but I felt no satisfaction in being right, just a cold emptiness where my marriage used to be. Even if that's true, she said, it doesn't change how I feel. I can't just turn off my emotions. No, but you could have talked to me before acting on them. You could have asked for a divorce before starting an affair. You could have been honest instead of making me look like a fool. The bar's front door opened, and Dom walked in, scanning the room until he spotted our booth. He looked worse than Monique. His usually perfect hair was disheveled, his expensive suit was wrinkled, and his face had the gray pallor of a man watching his world collapse. He slid in next to Monique, his presence immediately making the booth feel cramped and hostile. "Julian," he said, trying for his usual confident tone and failing. "I'm glad you called this meeting. We need to clear the air." "Do we?" "Look, I know this situation is difficult, but Monique and I didn't plan for this to happen. Sometimes people fall in love, and there's nothing anyone can do about it. I studied this man who'd been sleeping with my wife, using my money, and apparently convinced himself he was the victim in this scenario. You're right, I said. Sometimes people fall in love, but usually they don't use someone else's credit card to pay for their romantic getaways." Dom had the grace to look embarrassed. "That was a mistake. I'll pay you back for the hotel and dinner." "With what money? I hear your business is having some difficulties." His face darkened. "That's temporary. A few clients got spooked by some rumors, but we'll recover." "Will you? Because I heard the Henderson account dropped you yesterday, and the Morrison Group, and that tech startup you were so excited about. How do you—" He stopped, realization dawning. "You're behind this. You're sabotaging my business." "I'm not doing anything, Dom, but I can't speak for your wife." The color drained from his face. "Vanessa? She's a very smart woman, and very well connected. Did you really think she wouldn't find out about your affair? Did you think she'd just accept it quietly?" Monique grabbed Dom's arm. "What is he talking about?" Dom pulled out his phone with shaking hands and dialed. We all sat in silence as it rang and went to voicemail. "The thing about smart, powerful women," I continued conversationally, "is that they don't get mad, they get even, and they're very, very good at it." Dom tried calling again. Still no answer. "She's probably at her office," I said, "working late on a Saturday night, preparing divorce papers and asset seizure documents. You know how thorough lawyers can be." "This is insane," Monique said, but her voice lacked conviction. She was starting to understand the scope of what they were facing. "This is consequences," I corrected. "You both thought you could have your cake and eat it too. Secret affair, romantic getaways, plans for a future together, all while keeping your comfortable marriages and financial security as backup plans." "That's not," Dom started. "It's exactly what you did, and now you're both about to lose everything." Dom stood up abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "I don't have to listen to this." "No, you don't, but you should probably go home and see what's left of your life." He stormed out, leaving Monique alone with me in the booth. She looked smaller somehow, diminished by the weight of her choices. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now you figure out how to rebuild your life without Dom, without our money, and without the job you're about to lose when his business collapses." "Julian, please. I know I hurt you, but we were married for 8 years. That has to count for something." I looked at this woman I'd once loved, this stranger who'd shared my bed and my life and my dreams, and felt nothing but pity. "It did count for something," I said. "It counted right up until you decided it didn't." I left her sitting in the booth, staring into her vodka and contemplating a future that looked very different from what she'd imagined a week ago. Outside, the harbor lights reflected on the dark water like fallen stars, beautiful and cold and completely unreachable, just like the life Monique had thrown away for a married man who was never going to save her. Monday morning brought the end of everything Dom and Monique had built together, both professionally and personally. I watched it unfold from my office window, which had a perfect view of the Darrow and Associates building across the street. At 9 a.m., a black sedan pulled up, and Vanessa Caro emerged like an avenging angel in a perfectly tailored suit. She was followed by two men in dark suits who looked like they could bench press a small car. At 9:15, Dom came running out of the building, his face red with rage and panic. He stood on the sidewalk, gesticulating wildly into his phone, probably calling lawyers who wouldn't take his calls anymore. At 9:30, Monique stumbled out, carrying a cardboard box of personal items. She looked around desperately, as if hoping someone would rescue her, but the street was empty except for normal people going about their normal Monday morning routines. My phone rang. Vanessa. "It's done," she said simply. "I've seized control of the business assets, fired all the staff, and changed the locks. Dom's personal accounts are frozen, pending the divorce proceedings." "And Monique?" "Unemployed as of this morning. I made sure every PR firm in the city knows exactly why she was terminated. She'll be lucky to find work managing social media for a pet store." I watched as Dom and Monique stood together on the sidewalk, two people who'd thought they were so clever, so entitled to take whatever they wanted. Now they looked like what they really were, a middle-aged man having a pathetic midlife crisis and the woman who'd been stupid enough to believe his promises. "There's one more thing," Vanessa said. "I've prepared a little presentation for this evening, the Harbor Club Charity Gala. Dom and Monique were planning to attend together, their first public appearance as a couple. The Harbor Club, where all the city's elite gathered to see and be seen, to network and gossip and judge each other's choices, where reputations were made and destroyed over cocktails and canapes." "What kind of presentation?" "Let's just say it will be educational. I've reserved a table for two, you and me. I think we should attend as each other's dates, show our support for local charities and all that." I smiled for the first time in days. "I'll pick you up at 7. The Harbor Club that evening was exactly what I'd expected. Crystal chandeliers, men in tuxedos, women in designer gowns, and enough collective wealth to buy a small country. Dom and Monique arrived fashionably late, probably hoping to make a grand entrance as the new power couple. Instead, they walked into a carefully orchestrated ambush. Vanessa had positioned herself at the podium, ostensibly to thank the evening's sponsors. She looked magnificent in midnight blue silk, every inch the successful attorney and philanthropist. "Before we begin the auction," she announced, her voice carrying clearly through the ballroom, "I'd like to share something with all of you. A cautionary tale about trust, betrayal, and the importance of choosing your business partners carefully." The room fell silent. This wasn't the usual charity gala speech. "Many of you have worked with Darrow and Associates over the years. You've trusted them with your company's reputations, your public images, your most sensitive communications." She paused, letting the tension build. "I'm here tonight to tell you that trust was misplaced." A large screen descended behind her, and suddenly the room was filled with images. Dom and Monique at the Meridian Grand, expense reports showing personal charges billed to clients, email exchanges planning their affair using company resources. "My husband and his employee used your money to fund their personal relationship. They billed romantic dinners to your accounts, charged hotel rooms to your marketing budgets, and conducted their affair on company time while neglecting your actual business needs." The room erupted in shocked murmurs. I saw several former clients pulling out their phones, probably calling their lawyers. Dom tried to stand, his face purple with rage, but the weight of 300 pairs of eyes kept him pinned to his chair. Monique had gone completely white and looked like she might faint. As of this morning, Vanessa continued, Darrow and Associates has been dissolved. All client files have been transferred to reputable firms, and full refunds are being processed for any personal expenses that were inappropriately charged to your accounts. She smiled, cold and beautiful and absolutely devastating. I hope you'll join me in supporting tonight's charity auction. After all, some people clearly need to learn the value of giving back to the community they've taken so much from. The applause was thunderous. Dom and Monique sat frozen as the entire room turned to stare at them, their faces a mixture of disgust, amusement, and schadenfreude. Finally, Dom grabbed Monique's hand and they fled toward the exit, practically running through the ballroom, while 300 of the city's most influential people watched them go. I found Vanessa at the bar afterward, sipping champagne and looking supremely satisfied. That was magnificent, I told her. That was justice, she replied. They wanted to be a public couple? Now they are. They'll be the talk of the town for months. What happens next? Next, they discover what it's like to be social pariahs with no money, no jobs, and no prospects. Dom will spend the next 5 years fighting me in court and losing. Monique will spend them realizing that a man who cheats on his wife will eventually cheat on his mistress too. We clinked glasses and watched the charity auction proceed without interruption. Normal people doing normal things, while somewhere across town, 2 people who'd thought they were above consequences were learning otherwise. Do you think they'll stay together? I asked. For a while. Shared misery creates its own bond. But eventually, the reality will set in. Dom's not the powerful, successful man Monique fell in love with anymore. And Monique's not the exciting, forbidden romance Dom thought he was having. They're just 2 middle-aged people who destroyed their lives for a few months of hotel rooms and expensive dinners. And us? Vanessa smiled, and for the first time, it looked genuinely warm instead of terrifying. Us? We're free. Free from people who didn't value us, didn't respect us, and didn't deserve us. Free to build better lives with better people who understand that marriage means something. She was right. For the first time in months, I felt like I could breathe again. The weight of betrayal and humiliation had been replaced by something lighter, possibility. There's just one thing left to do, I said. What's that? Make sure they understand this is really over. Vanessa raised an eyebrow. What did you have in mind? I told her, and her smile returned to its previous, terrifying beauty. Julian Everett, she said. I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship. 6 months later, I was cleaning out my desk at Hartwell & Associates, preparing for my move to San Francisco and a new position with a prestigious investment firm. The divorce was final, the house was sold, and Monique was somewhere. I'd heard rumors that she and Dom had moved to a small apartment across town, that they were both working retail jobs, that their grand romance had devolved into bitter arguments about money and blame. I didn't care enough to verify the rumors. There was a knock on my office door. My assistant had left an hour ago, and the building was mostly empty. Come in. Monique stepped inside, and I barely recognized her. Gone was the polished, confident woman I'd married. This version looked tired, older, worn down by months of consequences she'd never imagined facing. Hello, Julian. Monique, this is unexpected. She closed the door behind her and moved to the chair across from my desk, the same chair where she'd sat 6 months ago when her world started falling apart. I wanted to see you before you left town, she said, to apologize. Really apologize, not the desperate, self-serving things I said before. I leaned back in my chair and studied her. Okay, I'm listening. I was selfish and stupid and cruel. I threw away 8 years of marriage for a fantasy that was never real. I hurt you in ways I can't take back, and I'm sorry. Thank you. I appreciate that. Do you forgive me? The question hung in the air between us like smoke. Did I forgive her? The anger had faded months ago, replaced by indifference and then, eventually, a kind of distant pity. "I forgive you," I said, and realized I meant it. "But that doesn't change anything. What you did, what we both lost, forgiveness doesn't fix that." She nodded, tears starting to flow. "I know. I wanted you to know that I understand now. What I gave up, what I destroyed." "What about Dom?" Her laugh was bitter, broken. "Dom blames me for everything. Says I seduced him, that I ruined his life. He's probably right about the second part." "And you're still together?" "For now. We can't afford separate apartments, and nobody else wants either of us. Turns out being the town's most notorious cheaters isn't great for your social life." I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "What will you do?" "Survive, I guess. Try to rebuild something from what's left. Maybe move away and start over somewhere else if Dom and I can save enough money." She stood up, smoothing down her cheap dress. Everything about her looked discount now, from her drugstore makeup to her worn shoes. "I hope you'll be happy in San Francisco," she said. "You deserve happiness." "Thank you." She paused at the door, her hand on the handle. "Julian? Was it worth it? The revenge, I mean. Did it make you feel better?" I considered the question seriously. Had it been worth it? The months of planning, the careful orchestration of their downfall, the satisfaction of watching them lose everything? "It wasn't about feeling better," I said finally. "It was about making sure actions have consequences. You and Dom thought you could take whatever you wanted without paying for it. You were wrong." She nodded and left without another word. I finished packing my desk and walked out of the building for the last time. Harbor Street was busy with the evening crowd, people heading home to their families, their real lives, their honest relationships. My phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. "Safe travels. Don't be a stranger." Vanessa had remarried 2 months ago, a federal judge who appreciated intelligent, dangerous women. They seemed happy together, bonded by mutual respect and shared interests rather than the desperate passion that had driven Monique and Dom. I'd been dating someone too, a fellow banker named Sarah who was smart, funny, and refreshingly straightforward about what she wanted from life. No games, no deception, no hidden agendas. Just honest affection between two adults who'd learned the value of trust. As I drove toward the airport, I passed the Copper Parrot one last time. Through the window, I could see the booth where Vanessa and I had planned our revenge, where I'd confronted Monique and Dom, where I'd learned that sometimes the best way to move forward is to make sure the past has real consequences. The meeting had been canceled, but the transaction was finally complete.